at that stage. He wasn't totally preoccupied with it being the voices of people who died. That only began to really firm up after he started reading about quantum physics. And I mean, we're talking this time, he was in his, I don't know, late 60s, and certainly well after I'd left home. So maybe he was in his early 70s, but he was getting on anyway. And of course they were starting to talk about multidimensional things and so on. And one of the things that they were saying was that the next dimension to this one, whatever it may be, is a sliver. It's very, very tiny. It's a narrow dimension. So it doesn't take up space like this one does. It's not full of density. It's not full of stuff. And it was almost, for him, it was like this eureka moment, because he'd been saying for years that the next dimension to ours is sound, is just simply sound, that actually that's what we are, but through some kind of chemical and electronic interaction we've put density onto sound. So that was when he started to think, right, okay, so that is what we revert to being when we are no longer in a dense form. We revert to sound, the soul becomes sound. Therefore, that is our means of communication between this dimension and that dimension. And the best way to do it is a phone with some sort of translating equipment that we can use, so that we can heighten or lower or speed up or whatever the vibration, which is what he'd been working on with the tapes. So he had a phone, and it was a very inappropriate, in some ways, one might say, Bakelite thing, which I thought it was a bit sad because it was white, and it was it didn't look remotely, in a way, when he started to talk about this, he made it sound quite exciting, and and then I saw this phone and I just thought, it's gone. He's actually balmy, because it was a white phone. He'd taken the dialing thing off the front of it. So inside where the dial would have been, there was it almost looked like a compass, really, what he'd put in the middle. I suspect it was something, a needle, like an ohmmeter, of some description. I don't honestly know, because, as I said, the difficulty is there was always in me, there was always the ambivalence about these things.
Yeah,
so
the technical part of it.
And also, the interest level. I'd got kids, I'd got a family. I was doing my own thing, you know what I mean? You don't, and actually, although he was extraordinary, and other people were always telling me, especially in my early married years, we had a couple of journalists living in a commune that we were in, and they used to love going around and talking to him. They'd go around for hours and listen to what he was on about. And I just used to think, oh no, it's just kind of boring, really. But I must admit, I did find the phone idea interesting. But I never ever had any experience of him being really successful. I mean, my mum would say to me, oh, is it that flipping phone again? And I remember saying to her one day, yeah, but if they've not got a phone on the other end, what's happening? And she said, oh no, don't ask. But she said, it's not that at all. He doesn't think that it's got to be a two-way thing. He thinks the phone will pick up the sound, I suppose. But he used to go to the spiritualist with her, and he was always hoping that he was always getting messages, mind you. The spiritualist was always giving him messages saying that he was going to heal the planet, and amazing things they used to say to him, and he used to say to me, "Oh, it's all a load of rubbish. I'm not going out to be a healer and stuff like that." But I used to think sometimes that the mediums touched into something about this kind of, because he was unique. He was very, the other thing about him was that although some of the things that he invented, like the phone, were definitely, people thought, it's going off a bit, he's going a bit. But having said that, everybody still came to him with all things to mend, everything from watches and clocks and radios and televisions and everything they would bring to him to fix for them, and he did. And when they were in business together, my mum and dad, they were always sort of on the edge of, like, my dad would mend things and then say tuppence, and I would be behind him going, that'll be 2 and 6 or whatever it was. But
so did she sort of manage it, and he
yeah,
did?
yeah. In the shop, yeah, because he would have been, he just would have been useless, really. He wasn't interested in money, and in fact that was the problem when he became inventor of the year with his Invitest thing, that he didn't want to part with it and let somebody else make it. He wanted to kind of, he was more excited by one order from Taiwan than 50 orders from Salford Housing Association. But that's life. He was a dreamer, really. So whether the phone ever worked or not for him, I honestly don't know.